back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we explore real, raw, and remarkable stories that inspire us to lead with courage and heart. Today's guest is Irma Neal, financial coach, leadership expert, and author of the Amazon best-selling book, Leading in Chaos: Insights to Lead Through the Storms. Irma's career spans government service, corporate leadership, and entrepreneurship, including serving as Deputy Mayor of Indianapolis, Vice President at two Fortune 500 corporations, and founder of multiple businesses. As owner of Onyx Rising, Irma helps leaders and organizations navigate turbulence with strategies grounded in resilience, empathy, and care. Her story is not only about leading through storms, but about transforming them into opportunities for growth and courage. In today's episode, Irma shares the powerful lessons from her parents that shaped her view of leadership and resilience, why asking for help is a strength, not a weakness, how to spot those light bulb moments that signal when it's time for change, and why leaders must stay true to their values even when politics and chaos swirl around, and how resilience is like a muscle memory and grows stronger each time we face a storm. This conversation is a reminder that chaos is inevitable, but with courage and clarity, we can rise above it and even lead others through it. Enjoy the listen, and here you go. So, Irma, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. We're going to have such a great conversation about your book and about some of your insights. So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Can you begin first by kind of introducing yourself to our audience so that they learn a little bit about you?
Well, my name is Irma Neal. I started my career in government, and from government went into corporate America as a vice president at two Fortune 500 companies. I started my own business. I've had 4 small businesses, 3 of which were very successful, one that was not. I learned more for the one that was not than the other successful ones. My background is I grew up very poor, 2-parent family, the oldest of 8. But in that whole experience, I thought I guess I must have been 9 or 10 years old that I don't want to live this way. You know, you've heard children say they didn't know they were poor. I knew we were poor. And I knew we were poor because there were other people around me who I saw was living differently than I was living. And so, but there were a couple of things that are key to my values and upbringing that I bring out in the book. And the first one was my father. Almost daily we heard there's no such word as can't. You know, you can do anything. Some things take longer, some things you have to persevere, but there's no such word as can't. Don't even mutter that word to me. And from my mother, I got always get an understanding, and that's straight out of the Bible. So for that, I started to and have always asked a lot of questions because I want to make sure that I'm understanding what's being requested of me. And I think that that has stopped me from making more mistakes. Now, it drove my husband crazy. He used to just say, can't you ever just follow? Can't you ever just do?
Yeah.
You know, if I take a wrong turn, a different turn you're saying, where are you going? Why are you going this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he
I
didn't
was
like
kind of the same way. I definitely had a manager once turn to me and say, can't you just do what I tell you to do?
exactly. So you feel me, you know what I'm talking about
I
there.
do. I totally
But
do.
you know, this is a personal story, but we early on, because I asked so many questions, we went to counseling, marriage counseling, because I was really getting on his nerves and he was getting on mine. So the counselor came back and said to him, he said, she's not going to change. She doesn't even know she's doing it. You know, that it's so ingrained, the questioning It's
Yeah.
so ingrained. And then she said to me, and you have to learn to be a bit more diplomatic about how you do these questions. Again,
Yeah.
transition to the workplace.
Yeah.
You can ask almost anything. It's the tone and the diplomacy you use when you pose the question, so
Yeah.
that was
So
it.
tell us about why you wrote your book. It sounds like, the title, of course, Leading in Chaos. You had a fair amount of different experiences, perhaps, that gave you that background, huh? In how to
Yeah,
be.
I was recruited to the job in Washington, D.C. to be a director of one of the human services programs. And I knew it was going to be a difficult task because they were last in all the performance measures that were required by the federal government at the time to receive funding. But I didn't know it was going to be such extraordinarily difficult situations. And every time I tell the story, somebody would say, you ought to write a book. You ought to write a book. And then so after I lost my husband, it was a way for me to
Mhm.
do something productive, to feel like I still had control. So, and there are some really incredible things as I look back. I mean, there were two heroin overdoses on the job within 30 days. There was an extreme bullying uh, all through the tenure that I was there with one particular employee. There was a total mental breakdown of one of the employees right in my office. I mean, I knew she had mental problems, but it manifested itself in such a way that just really shocked me. And
Mhm.
so, and then on top of that, it was the politics of Washington, D.C. Everything is political there. And so, and then the pressures of doing what's political instead of what's right. So it
Mhm.
was a combination of all those things. And I kept it short on purpose because I wanted, first of all, I wanted it to be an easy read. But secondly, I didn't want to go, all the names were changed, but I still didn't, yeah, I still didn't want to go into such detail about some of those situations.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to give the reader enough of a view of what was going on without jeopardizing anybody's privacy or anything like
Yeah.
that. So,
Well, throughout the book, you offer management insights.
mhm.
Um, which of those affected you the most in your career, do you think?
I thought about that. And I think the one that affected me the most, I think I can't remember the number. I think it was the one about good documentation is better than a character witness. And and by that I meant that you have to deal in the facts. And the distance between when you learn the facts and when you have to actually use the facts, it's important, especially in a political environment that I was in. It was
Yeah.
important to have the facts put out as quickly as possible. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That one affected you. Well, I like the one about asking for help.
yeah, and
That
that
was good. That's hard, I think, when we're first starting out, but it gets a little easier as we get
Yeah, it is
along.
hard at first because you don't ever want to appear like you don't know what you're doing when you first start a job. You want to know. But I learned through my career that help comes in so many unexpected places.
Mhm.
I mean, and you just never know where your help's coming from. So if you've got a problem, plus you and I both know the more minds you have working on a problem, the
Yeah.
better it is.
Yeah.
So rather than keep it secret, I just always reached out for help,
Yeah.
and I wasn't, you got to be particular in the sense that you can't ask for help from the office gossip person because
They'll spread it
that's
around.
right, that's more destructive than
Cool.
constructive. But yeah, asking people for help is something that
Yeah.
I would recommend to anybody in a leadership position. Sometimes, presidents have their kitchen cabinet,
Yeah.
kind of thing, but yeah.
Well, I wonder about insight number 14, which is the one when you believe you have resolved a huge problem, don't be surprised if you see it again.
Right.
What,
And
what was that one about?
that's because every new, and you'll see this theme in the book too, that you think you've resolved something, and then a new administration comes in,
Uh-huh.
a manager comes in, and there's a problem that you've seen before and resolved, but they don't always know the history, so you're gonna it's gonna show up again. If there's somebody in the organization who didn't like that particular solution to the problem, they'll bring it up again. And
Uh-huh.
we see it all the time right now. We're seeing that
Yeah.
we're experiencing issues that we thought were resolved years ago by the courts, and they're coming up again. So,
Yeah.
it just has a way, as management changes, old problems resurface, those that you thought you had really resolved.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And I also thought the insight number 22, don't ignore the light bulb moments. Being
Yeah,
comfortable is not helpful to your
yeah.
career. So I guess, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the story behind that one, the light bulb moments. Like what did you mean when you wrote that?
When I had succeeded in creating the kind of organization that I had envisioned, and then a
Mm.
new administration came in and posed all kinds of new restrictions on spending.
Uh-huh.
And it was just so much, until I'll tell you exactly what it was. When I had been trying to get, this is going to sound so crazy. I had been trying to get supplies for the office. It was so bad at that point that people were bringing in I was bringing in toilet tissue for the ladies' room. And because everything, every pen, every pencil, everything was counted, right? So when we received a shipment of Xerox paper, and I was so happy, I said, this is a light bulb moment, because if I'm spending
Mm.
my time on this mundane,
Mm.
should be small item,
Yeah.
then it's time for me to make a move. And so whenever
Mm.
we get stuck, whenever we're getting in just the mundane everyday and getting happy about it, it's
Yeah.
it's time to make a move. It's time.
Yeah. The comfort. You're
Yeah.
like you're
Comfort
saying,
zone.
yeah, if we just stay in that too long.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need, I think, a little bit of, recurrence and system, um, because constantly being in new is pretty challenging, I think, to us. I'm always striving to find the system so I make my life easier and
Exactly.
faster, with things that I'm doing, so that I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. You do
Yeah.
try to do that. At some point you want, and that's what I said about, and here's what I found too. That's what I said about, I had worked hard. All of us, the whole team had worked hard, and we had the organization that I felt I can just sit back and let this coast. It's what we worked hard for,
Yeah.
all the sleepless nights, all that extra work. It's paying off. It's okay. But just for me, just when I get comfortable, here comes something
Yeah, to disrupt it.
to disrupt it, and so
Yeah.
can't rely on that too long, although it's what we
Yeah.
strive for.
I
Yeah,
had a coach who called that, breaking up the transparency of life. That you are just, we're going along with our lives. We love our systems or whatever, however we're living. And then, as you said, something comes along, disrupts it,
yeah,
and we go to the next thing. And I really do think that's what resilience is about a lot of times, that you build on all of that, chaotic experiences that you had,
yeah,
And you keep elevating yourself.
Yeah, you keep elevating yourself, and it's easier the next time you see it.
Yeah.
That's almost like it, muscle memory. The more you go through chaos, the easier it is. You spot it sooner and you deal
Yeah.
with it sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that resilience is built in by every experience that we have. It builds.
I'm suspecting that as a director and manager, you had a sense of humor though, that when you saw these things coming along again.
Well, wait a minute. I had it after the fact. I didn't have it while I was going through it.
No, I thought you might say, "Oh my God, here we go again."
I did not have it while I was going through it. I did not. In fact, one of the other things I'll say that people say, "How long were you in that position in Washington D.C.?" And I'll say 3 years and 2 weeks. So that tells you something right there, right? Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world because
Yeah.
growth that I achieved out of it, it just made me. I think I mentioned this to you. It just made
Yeah.
me fearless. I'm
Yeah.
not afraid of a business problem anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of a business situation. And it really served me well when I went from government into corporate. The
Yeah.
people in my group in the corporate said, "Wow, you're from government. You got this fast. You caught on to this fast." Well, because I had a history of, okay, let's just deal in the facts. Don't let this other
Mhm.
stuff get in
Yeah.
the way. Get the noise out. Let's deal in the fact. What solution do we want? Let's move forward with that. So,
Uh-huh.
and I actually relished corporate because it was so clear cut. It was profit and loss.
Yeah.
In government, it was which political thing are you going to hear today, and which way is the wind going to blow, and that's
Uh-huh.
in the book. And if there's any one thing I want people to get is that no matter which way the wind blows, stay true to your values, stay
Mm.
true to your vision, focus on where you want to go, and just disregard the noise because it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. I loved a story you once told me about a friend who told you about not dumbing down your intelligence.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was another one of those light bulb moments for me because being the only female and only African American in so many situations, I had to find certain techniques to be seen and to be heard, right? And so if I remember distinctly one really hard problem that we were having in honing the solution. And I came up, we'd been going around, I guess, 30, 40 minutes or something. And I wrote on a piece of paper what the answer was, what the answer was right then.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't feel comfortable sharing it because
Yeah.
I was the only one, I was new. Some people call that imposter syndrome, where you just aren't,
Yeah.
feeling for yourself. And so I started to devise ways to be heard. Like I would put it in the form of a question, all the time. The solution, I'm thinking, well, you know, how about, or have you considered, or and if
Yeah.
and then I would also credit other people for my ideas. So that's when my coworker, female, she said, "You're dumbing down your intelligence to get along or to do."
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, yeah, she's right. I
Yeah.
did
That's a
do that.
very good point about I had a guest on not too long ago that kind of reminded me that there's two extremes. There's leaders who take all the credit, don't give anybody else credit. And then there's leaders who give the team credit without
Right.
including themselves in that. That
Yeah.
was always me. I was
Yeah.
always,
Me too.
yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
And she said, you can do both, that you can actually, present it as the I statement first and then follow up with the we statement after. But I think that's a very good point that we tend to just think that by moving the team along, it's taking care of us too, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I think as time goes on, for me, it was about building credibility.
Mm,
And then once people see you as knowing what you're doing,
yeah.
then it's easier to go to that I. But I'm still not comfortable with the I, and it's always the we, you know,
Yeah.
because I know that I haven't had one success in my life without somebody else.
But
So
I'm going to suspect that you were a woman in the room who everybody recognized as the leader and would listen to you because of your credibility and who you were.
yeah, at first, but there were people who really tried to tried to especially when I first got to corporate, people who tried to make you feel like you didn't belong there.
Yeah.
And so there were all kinds of events, not just corporate. I mean, I don't know if I told you this story before or not, but I actually was the executive assistant to the head of the Ku Klux Klan in Indiana. And
No, you did not tell me this
I didn't tell
story.
you that one. I took that job on purpose. And why did I take it on purpose? I mean, people probably think, oh, you are crazy as you can be. But
Struck me as that.
I took it on purpose. For number one, I wanted to try to understand the hate. I wanted
Uh,
to be able to see, just understand it more.
yeah. Yeah.
Number two, I wanted him to see that the stereotypes he held about African Americans was not true,
Yeah.
right? And number three, right, and then you say your credibility right off the bat in the interview. Now I'm 20 something years old. In the interview, right off the bat with the guy, I told him, here is how I expect you to treat me. Because he started off with calling me a racial slur. That's how he started it. And I just stopped him in his tracks and said, no, here's how I expect you to treat me. Here are my parameters. You can't talk in my presence certain ways. And to my surprise,
He
he
did, huh?
did. We
I
got a
wouldn't mess with you, Irma. If you were on the other side of the table from me, I would go, okay, yeah,
well, that's what
whatever.
he did. I was surprised. But what was disappointing in that experience was that he never he never let go of the stereotypes. He thought I
Yeah.
was the exception rather than
Oh,
a rule. So that was the disappointment about working for him. But we
gosh,
got along
kind of.
good. So yeah.
But how wonderful for you to go in with a viewpoint of learning in that situation.
Right, right.
And has that been a guiding principle throughout your life?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
I always wanted, again, getting back to my mother, get an understanding,
Yeah.
because I come to, I believe today, to this day, that everything that happened to me was not racial, that there might have been other
Mm-hmm.
reasons. Well, if I can't, I got to understand in order to see it clearly. So now
Yeah.
I'm better at seeing when something is really, really racial
Yeah.
and when it's just somebody not understanding what they're saying or doing, or they don't have the
Yeah.
intent to hurt me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
that took a
do.
lot of practice. And again, taking the emotion out of it. Because when somebody attacks you, I don't care what they attack you about, your first reaction is to fight back,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had, my dad was first generation Mexican, and well, I had to have been about 10 or so years old. And we had been driving all night and for a vacation and went into a hotel, and they said that they didn't provide rooms for Mexicans. And my father, who, you know, I mean, in the movies, someone would jump over the, probably, the desk and knock the guy out or whatever. But my dad just turned to him and said, "But we all have our idiosyncrasies," and
Yes,
walked out, right?
yes,
That to me has created a certain standard, that when you see that kind of ignorance, you know, Michelle Obama says, if they're low, we go high. That I really look at that and go, okay, they're in whatever they're doing. As you said, there's something perhaps in their background that makes them that way that I don't know about. And I don't need to get into it with them. It took
that's
me it
exactly
took
right.
it took me a while though. I mean,
It does take a while and it takes some practice. And the other thing is because for me, my confrontation is measured and calm and all that stuff because I want to try to get the person to think and to perhaps change their behavior, but actually just to bring it to their attention
yeah,
that this is, that this is something that you might want to look at, you know. So
that's so good.
kind of self-reflection.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the
Yeah,
more that we can help somebody see how they're being in the moment, I think that's the hardest thing sometimes to have that,
oh, it is.
to be able to observe. But, I didn't always handle it well. I mean, I had a bully, situation in the last position I had and stormed out of the room, threw the door closed.
Yeah,
Just kind of did not handle it well. But I had the opportunity to really learn from it. And it's been a topic on the podcast a couple times just because bullies are so interesting to me. Like what makes them that way and where do they come from and that insecurity that they have that they're pushing on other people, and I agree. I'm just so intrigued by this.
pushing on people for no apparent reason and always exploiting the weakness that somebody else has. I
Yeah.
never understood what joy they got out of it. I never understood why they wanted to.
Uh-huh.
And in the book, that's one of my failures in the book because this was such extreme bullying. I mean, just and that a person that kind of delighted in hurting others, and
Mm-hmm.
taking opportunities to hurt others. So the story about her in the book is that she, from the first day, came in and threatened me and said, very first meeting,
Mm-hmm.
she came in and said to me, she said, I want you to know that I run this place and that I could have your job if I wanted to. So you don't F with me and I won't F with you.
Whoa.
That was the first
First day?
day,
You go
first time I
on
met
a
her.
run.
The very first time I met her, she said that. And so I said to her back, and she was physically intimidating too. And I don't know where I got it from, but I said to her back, I said, well, the day that the mayor tells me that I cannot discipline you for something you have done, that will be the day I will pack up and go home. I
Mm.
said, so you go tell him, and I'm going to tell him that if you get out of line, you're going to suffer the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
And boy, that shocked her. She
Oh.
said, I know the mayor. I said, I know him too. He hired me. Shoot,
Yeah.
so yeah, but she was a failure to me because she never turned around. I ended up having to terminate her. And then even after I terminated her, she took a lot of time, which is the problem with bullies, and they take a lot of your HR time to try to get them out. But when I finally got her out, this is in the book too. all over the news, there was a episode where a person walked into a bank that was less than 2 blocks from our office,
Uh-huh.
a disgruntled employee, and he came in and he shot two of the
Oh,
two of the bank employees and a customer, right?
oh
So
no.
that was all over the news. Well, the very next day, this person shows up in the office. Now she's terminated, but she shows up in the office and starts walking around. And then my phone starts ringing and says, she's in the office. We don't know what she's gonna do. She's just walking around. What should we, and I'll tell you, my assistant and I was in my office. I called my assistant there. We locked the door, right? And then we called for help. By the time help got there, she was gone. But there again, it's just the intimidation. She
Yeah.
took a tragedy
Yeah.
and then decided to make her point by
Yeah.
just showing up, you know. And
But
that's why there was
yeah.
no winning in that situation, you know.
But that was part of the learning too, right, Irma? That there are just going to be some situations where you can't change it.
That was part of the learning, but I'll take you back to what my father always, there's no
Yeah.
such word as can. So I kept on trying. I
Yeah.
probably, in hindsight, I probably should have let her go sooner.
Yeah.
But I just kept on trying.
I know. I had somebody on my staff once that I had to terminate, and ah, it was such a learning thing because I had no idea. When people present themselves and you get to know them in an interview, you get to know a tiny, tiny slice of their life.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
And you can't find out all the trauma that they had in their life that they're working through, that they're
that's
going
exactly
through,
right. Yeah,
and how it just totally distracted her and kept her from doing the job. I had just no idea. And I learned a lot from that experience that sometimes people just make their own situation, and I'm just part of their journey to the next thing that they're going to go
that's very
through.
true. That's very true. You hit
Yeah.
it on the head. We don't really know. We only know a slice of their
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
when I was in corporate and it was, you leave your personal problems at home, don't bring them to the office. So
Yeah.
that didn't even give you an opportunity to see if you might. Yeah, and thankfully that's changed. Now leaders know they have to take the whole person.
Yeah.
They, you
And
know,
I think social media is much more helpful because
exactly,
HR couldn't go and do the kind of
exactly,
research that we can do now to
right,
understand more aspects of the person.
exactly right.
So I just went,
Right. Yeah,
"Oh,
that's one good side of it.
one good. Oh, Irma, we could talk forever. I think we've got great stories back and forth, but is there anything else that you want to tell our audience about?
Well, you asked the question that I had to ponder for a while, and it was, what would you tell your 20-year self?
Yes, go ahead.
And so what I said, I thought about that a long time. And what I'd say to my 20-year-old self is, don't sweat it. You're gonna be great. You're gonna encounter things and situations that you never thought you would come up against, and you're gonna conquer them. So
Mm.
don't sweat it. Just go be great.
I love that. Go be great.
Right.
I think I have to do a card now with that saying on it because it's so good. Go be great. Oh, and I know you had a chance to go to our online store and take a look. And can you tell our listeners which of the cards that you like the best?
I like the celebration one the best, and I like that because I believe in celebrating the big victories, the small victories. More you celebrate the small ones, it improves your resilience, and
Hmm.
and you just like that feeling of being good at something, and so
Yeah.
you keep getting better and better and better. That's the one that touched me, the celebrations one.
Uh-huh. Well,
I
Irma,
like the I like the two old ladies on the thing too.
they're so cute, right? I love them too. There's something about like if there's no need to be normal. We can
Right,
we
right, right,
can be vibrant
right.
and have a
Yeah,
great time. And
yeah.
I definitely have so enjoyed our conversation, Irma. I'm so glad that we got a chance to record and that you could share so much of your insights with our audience. So helpful. So appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it too.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Irma's story is a powerful reminder that storms don't have to defeat us. With resilience, clarity, and love at the center of our leadership, we can not only weather the chaos, we can thrive in it. If this conversation inspired you, I'd love for you to leave a review wherever you're listening. Reviews help people find the show and step into their own journeys of courage and connection. And if you know somebody navigating leadership challenges or personal storms, please share this episode with them. Irma's insights might be exactly what they need. A few of my favorite quotes from her were, "There's no such word as can't. Some things take longer, but you can do anything. And the more chaos you face, the stronger you become. Resilience is like muscle memory. And don't dumb down your intelligence to get along." And lastly, go be great. Mm. Here are 3 takeaways from today's episode. 1, resilience grows by facing storms, not avoiding them. 2, asking for help is a leadership strength, not a weakness. And 3, staying true to your values keeps you grounded when chaos swirls. Coming up next week on Girl Take the Lead, we'll be joined by Uma Thana Balasing, a trailblazer who grew up in Malaysia, put herself through university, and went from engineer to vice president of sales, leading over $1 billion in revenue across 48 markets. Now in her second career, she's building companies and movements at the intersection of leadership, reinvention, and media. Uma is the founder of the Elevate Group, host of the hit podcast Raw with Uma, and is architecting a future where 5 million women rise with her. You won't want to miss this inspiring conversation about transformation, reinvention, and what it truly means to rise. Until then, take care of your heart, lead with courage, and remember, we got this. Talk soon.